Hey guys, welcome to the first forecast of the year, and it's been a pretty crummy couple of days in Madison. It's been raining, so I haven't been able to get out and get any outdoor footage lately. It's not even pretty to look at when it's raining. So, but anyway, we're gonna get to the forecast right quick. The main things are gonna be there's a cold front coming in this weekend. It's gonna cool down at least a little bit most of the states east of the Rockies. The Midwest, kind of the Mississippi Valley region, is going to be getting quite a bit of rain for the next few days. It should warm back up again come like late Saturday, early Sunday. And then there's a chance of another front coming in next week that might be a little bit stronger, but the models haven't really been agreeing on when and where and how strong that front's going to be. So that's kind of the key points. We'll get into it here real quick, but just kind of wanted to go over, my mentality, how I use the weather through the different parts of the year. So this time of year, the cold fronts are like really something to pay attention to, and kind of plan your hunts around. Obviously hunt whenever you can, but this time of year you'll have periods of warm weather and then maybe a day or two where it cools off quite a bit. And those couple of days where it cools off can be really good as far as getting the deer up and moving. They feel good about the cool, fresh air, and so they like to get up and move around a little bit. And then once we move into like late October, early November, when the rut starts coming around, it becomes less of a focus. Obviously, it's more about kind of your location and thinking more about small scale features about how the wind's going to behave in that location and that sort of thing. Because during that time of year, you pretty much want to be hunting at all times as much as you can. Obviously, you still want to pay attention to the weather. If it's going to be really hot, you just have to adjust accordingly. And that goes for everything. If you're wanting to hunt during this time of year and it's warm, just adjust accordingly. Think about what the deer are going to be doing based on whether it's warm or cool or whatever. So, and then once we move to the later part of November into the late season in December, kind of the opposite of the early season, where periods of warm days after long periods of cold can produce some good deer movement. So, and of course they kind of transition to feeding more. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into the forecast, and looking forward to getting out and hunting here pretty soon. Hope you guys are too. If you've been out already, hopefully it's going well for you. Alright, hopefully that solved the audio problem. I was hearing two of myself on the last video, and I liked the video, but then the audio was trashed. So anyway, welcome to the forecast for the week. I already said that in the first part of the video, but anyway, welcome again. If you're not familiar with the site, this is your first year coming to hunt the front, welcome. Stoked to have you here. Hopefully you get something good out of the site over the course of the season. But one thing I think you should do is go to the website and go to the videos page. Watch the video on using weather models to plan a hunt. I use the weather models heavily to do my discussions. That's basically how I make the forecasts, and I'm not going to do as much explaining of how to interpret them this year, because I did a lot of that last year. So go and check those out, and it'll make watching these future videos a lot easier for you. But anyway, so just to get started here, I want to talk about something that's kind of a little bit meteorological real quick, but it'll maybe, if you're curious, it'll explain something to you. So I don't know, you see this upside down U shape? This is called a ridge, and now we're looking halfway up in the atmosphere right now, also known as 500 millibars. That's just a pressure level, so it's about halfway up. And this upside down U shape is called a ridge, and it's basically high pressure aloft. And this is why most of the country has stayed warm over the last couple of weeks, and we haven't really got that first taste of fall yet. It's because this ridge has been here, and that's partly due to the tropical storms that have been moving through. They have a lot of influence on the jet stream and other factors as well. But if you notice this U shape out in the western part of the U.S., this is going to move across the country over the next several days and kind of take a few different shapes and get stronger. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to, as it moves over the Rocky Mountains, it's going to form a low pressure to the east of the Rocky Mountains, and then that low pressure is going to form a cold front and drag kind of the first taste of fall down into the U.S. So let's just look at what that looks like. If you notice, the reds here are almost perfectly aligned with the ridge that I was just showing you. And that's just how it always works, at least in the summertime and the warmer parts of the years. When you have a big ridge, you're going to have warm air underneath it. So as we move this, remember that low pressure of the trough was right here, that U shape in the jet stream. As we move this forward, now that trough is about right here. You can see the isobars kind of getting packed together. The isobars are lines of constant pressure. Oh God, excuse me. And this is that low pressure system starting to form. And when it does, you'll start to see a bunch of wind barbs getting clustered up here. They're starting to point towards the south. And this is the cold front showing up right here. And as we move this farther ahead, you can see it kind of push down into the southern part of the states. It's going to cool everybody off at least 10 degrees in most areas, but there's other areas that are going to see 15 to 20 degree cool downs, especially in the mornings. We're getting down almost into the 30s here in Wisconsin and parts of Minnesota and Iowa. This is Saturday morning. And then getting into Saturday afternoon, the front kind of stalls out right along this line here, and it's going to stay that way. And then late Saturday into early Sunday, we're going to see the warmth kind of come back in for the day. And then another low pressure system starts to form right here. It's not as obvious, but it kind of it seems to be stronger than the other one was, because it starts to drag a ton of this air out of Canada. You see all these wind barbs pointing from the northwest to the southeast. And if this actually happens, this is going to bring a pretty substantial cool down. You can see a big front, lots of greens and blues coming into the country. So that's something to look forward to. But if you've watched my videos before, you've heard me say that once you get past 150 hours, you don't want to put a lot of stock in what the models say, just because chaos theory, is all this other, wacky science that goes into weather models. But basically, once you get past 150 hours, the solution starts to diverge, and so you can't trust it. But anyway, so that's kind of what to expect for temperature over the next several days. A couple of fronts, and that's all you can ask for this time of year. So definitely pay attention to that. Get out and hunt this weekend if you can, if you got some good spots picked out. And I'm going to switch over to the NAM to look at some precipitation products. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because precipitation is kind of more difficult to predict in the long term, and the NAM is more designed for short-term weather prediction. So I'm just going to go to this sim reflectivity here. And basically what this is simulated radar. It's what the model expects radar to look like based on where it's showing rain. So it's been raining here all day in Madison, so that lines up pretty good there. And this part of the country here is going to get a ton of rain over the next few days, especially southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, western Wisconsin, eastern South Dakota. You guys are going to be getting quite a bit of rain over the next few days. And also this region here is we're expecting some severe weather. It'd be tomorrow afternoon and evening. The main threats are going to be some damaging winds, a couple tornadoes are possible, as well as some small hail. So I'll show you a different graphic here in a second that kind of outlines the areas where they're expecting that to happen. So if you're in those areas and you're going to be hunting, definitely watch the weather. Do not get caught in a severe thunderstorm in your tree stand, because that's just bad news. But anyway, there's also going to be a ton of rain down here in the southern plains. Several inches they're expecting, actually, but I know there's not really a lot of hunting going on down here yet. Oklahoma's season doesn't open until October 1st. I know that for sure. I'm not aware of all of Texas's seasons, but it could be different there, but I don't think so. And then this rain is going to kind of push over into the southeast, getting into the later part of the weekend. And if we go to the Weather Prediction Center, you can just kind of get a 3-day precipitation total. Again, tons of rain up in this region. That's showing anywhere from 2 to 4 inches across that area. And then this is actually showing anywhere from an inch to that yellow there is 5 inches, I believe. So pretty substantial amounts of rain. Probably going to see some flooding if that's the case. And just to give people in the area a heads up, these are the areas where they're expecting the most severe weather. And again, the hazards are going to be damaging winds. That's probably going to be the biggest deal, is damaging wind, 60 mile an hour plus. And then a couple tornadoes aren't out of the question. But anyway, that's something to think about. And then lastly, just going to go to the Climate Prediction Center to get kind of a long-range outlook. This is the long-range outlook for temperature over the next couple of weeks. Basically, the way you read this is anywhere that's below average. So like in Madison, Wisconsin, I think probably an average temperature for today, we'll say, or the next couple of weeks is like 65 degrees, maybe a little more, a little less, but around that ballpark, I would guess. So we're probably going to see temperatures below that bar on average for the next 8 to 14 days. And then people on the West Coast, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, California, all those good areas, you're probably going to see above average temperatures, so it's going to be warm. But everywhere east of the Rockies, the next 2 weeks, shaping up to be, favorable for hunting. So keep an eye on these couple of cold fronts as they work their way in. I'll probably try to give some blog updates on what those are looking like over the next several days, just to keep up with them. But by the time the next forecast comes out next week on Wednesday, that second front should be moving into the country, and we'll see how strong it ends up being. But anyway, thanks for coming to the site. Look forward to having all you new guys coming to check stuff out, and hopefully I can get something useful going here for you this season. And then if you're hunting this weekend or over the next several days, good luck, and I'll see you back here next Wednesday.